Hi everyone, welcome back to another anatomy episode. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the endocrine system, so please like and subscribe for more content in the future. And now we're going to get into the first image, which is going to be a cadaver image. So if you want to skip it, then you can go ahead and move on to the histology, but it's just going to be showing a kidney. So this is a kidney from a cadaver. You can see that this one over here, this image is a left kidney. And then you have your abdominal aorta over here in red. You have also your celiac trunk over here. You might have heard of people having like a celiac condition where they cannot have like any gluten or anything like that. You also have your renal pelvis. So the renal pelvis is going to be this thicker area over here that then branches off into the ureter. And this is where kind of your urine comes from when you go to the restroom. You also have your adrenal artery. So the adrenal artery is going to be this small little portion over here in red, and then right next to it in blue is where your adrenal vein is going to be. So they both lead into the kind of like hilus region of your kidney over here. This little curve is that portion. Again, you can see your renal artery in red and your renal vein in blue. Finally, you have your adrenal gland over here sitting on top of the kidney. It's kind of this little fat pouch that sits right over here. Okay, so now we're going to get into the histology. So the first piece of histology that we're looking at is of the pituitary gland. So the pituitary gland has three main portions that you need to know. The first of which is your adenohypophysis. It's going to be this portion right over here. You can see that it kind of has like very distinct little groups over here, while the neurohypophysis is a little bit more just like meshed together, and it doesn't have this kind of like grouping that is seen within the adenohypophysis. Finally, your pars intermedia is going to be separating the adeno and the neurohypophyses. And then the neurohypophysis kind of looks a lot like nervous tissue. And when you look at it on the microscope by yourself and you zoom closer in on it, it kind of looks like little brains, which helps to remind you of the neuro name portion of it. You can also just call it the anterior versus the posterior pituitary, but ask your professors because sometimes they do want you to use the other terminology. All right, now we're going to move into the adrenal gland. So the adrenal gland has three main regions. The first region is going to be your capsule. It's kind of like this hot pink thin area over here that is encapsulating everything. It's very thin. It's an extremely thin layer. Then you have your cortex. The cortex is going to be this whole bracketed area over here. And you can tell that this is the cortex because inside of it there are many distinct layers that you can see. And then finally, the medulla is all just going to be one solitary color. There's not going to be different layers that you see within the cortex. The medulla is also the deepest on the histology, so you can kind of gauge whether you're in the cortex or the medulla based upon how superficial versus deep you are. So, important factors to know is that within the cortex, you have three different zonas. The first zona is going to be the zona glomerulosa. It's kind of like this more purplish region over here that is right after the capsule. Then you have this lightest region, it's a very light pink, that is your zona fasciculata over here. And then finally, this dark pink region is going to be your zona reticularis. So just looking at the layers and kind of like counting them, then you can kind of remember what zone you are in and if that helps you to remember them. So number 1 is glomerulosa, 2 fasciculata, and then 3 reticularis. All right, finally, we're going to look at the pancreas histology. This is my favorite type of histology because it's very, very simple, especially just for rudimentary anatomy. So, the first thing that we're going to look at is these light circles that are within the pancreas. These are called your islets of Langerhans. They can also just be called pancreatic islets, depending on whichever one you want to use and whichever one your professor prefers. You can also see a tiny little pancreatic islet over here. There's another one here and one over here. So just all of these lighter circular regions over here that are clearly like not arteries or other vessels or anything like that. So these are your islets of Langerhans. Everything else that surrounds it, so all of this dark purple that is around it, that is going to be your pancreatic acini. It's spelled ACINI, pancreatic acini, and that is just all of the other cells. So the pancreas is nice in the fact that it only has two main things that you need to know. All right, so that is everything for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this clarified some questions that you guys might have had. If you have any more questions or concerns, leave them in the comment section and I will get back to you. Also, if you would like some anatomy tutoring, I also offer that. So just reach out to me in the comments and I will provide you guys with some resources and one-on-one help. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day. Bye.